Alright, ladies and gents, BaronX back here. Gonna do another voice vote. This time, we've got the Surgical Shorthand, Round 6, JericKo versus The Ill one. The topic will be Flying Blind. I'll try and make this quick, since JericKo is saying I do 54-minute votes. And I mean, I do that, but it's because I feel you guys are worth it, you know? So, let's see. First up, we got the Ill one with all these Thanos images. Pretty solid choice here. So he starts off, instinctive guesswork, leading a surgery and saving a life, linking text terms, being encouraging despite wavering fright. What if mistakes as I slide the blade distracted my conversation? A stroke in my mind as I slowly realize that this is not my patient. So, I like the twist. I like what you did here. This ending. Now, what I want to say is, reading, like, the instinctive guesswork, like, sure. But I feel like as a surgeon, you don't really do, like, guesswork. You don't really go off instinct either. You go off training and practice and stuff. But maybe this guy isn't actually a surgeon, hence why he ended up operating on the wrong guy. Or maybe he's like one of those, you know, like fucking the guy from Borderlands that's, who needs a meds, who cares about a med school degree? You know, when you get shot, you'll be happy I'm here. That type of thing. Maybe that's the idea. But guesswork with a surgeon, I would be a little concerned about that, to say the least. I don't know if I'd sign up for that surgery. Okay, so leading a surgery and saving a life. Linking text terms. This part feels out of place. When I originally read it, I read the linking text terms, and it just seems like, I don't know, like, I guess that it was supposed to be the conversation, that type of thing, and I guess those text terms in the conversation are supposed to be encouraging, but I don't speak in text, and I don't think either do you, so, you know, that's definitely something I would point out here. If it's supposed to be a conversation, it's not really text terms, because there's a difference between text and vocabulary. The two do not have a shared meaning. So being encouraging despite wavering fright. The one thing that I noticed is if you're trying to get like the full matching line, you need a beat before this. You know, like because otherwise it just starts here, the attempt, which I mean is fine. But if you're going for it, that's, you know, that's something worth considering. I don't know. I mean, maybe you did it for line length reasons or something, but as a result, instinctive guesswork, leading a surgery and saving a life, linking text terms, being encouraging despite wavering fright. Despite sounds a little out of place. It does have the spite part, which rhymes with fright, life, and all that. But the way it is rhythmically, it sounds a little out of place, but, I mean, what can I say? Like, these are, like, you guys are both fucking excellent writers. Like, everyone that's still in this tournament is a fucking excellent writer, so any comments or any shit like that is going to be 100% nitpicking, because, like, this is a great verse. If you drop this, I'd be like, damn, that is a fucking great verse, you know? But it's my job in trying to feed back to try and look for, like, those tiny little, like, you know, like microscopic level fucking improvements, because that's what we should all be doing, you know, and feeding each other's pieces, not just looking at the broad, you know, strokes of the piece, because it really annoys me, you know. I think most of the voters here just kind of say, yeah, I was feeling this was alright, this was good, but they don't get into the real nitty-gritty, you know, the shit that really makes the verse work or not work. And I feel like by doing that, you're robbing yourself of an opportunity to try and understand deeper. Because if you think you know well enough, I think that's the point where things go off the rails. Like me, I read these great verses, yours, JericKo's, MCD and Answer. Like, I read these great verses, and I'm not thinking, you know, oh, well, my writing is good enough. No, I'm looking in your writing. I'm looking and I'm seeing, what did you do right? What did you do wrong? What could have been better? What made your verse work? You know, what is the thing that clinched it? Because I think if you settle for the level that you're at, it's like that's the point where you start taking those L's. So what if mistakes? So it's italicized, so it's kind of the what if mistakes. As I slide the blade, distracted by conversation. So he's considering what if he fails. A stroke in my mind, which, saying a stroke, like, I think he might mean literally a stroke. The guy just, like, drooping or some shit like that. As I slowly realize this is not my patient. The slowly, I get why you put that in there, but, it just, like, when you say, like, somebody slowly does something, you know, it kind of, it comes with its own associations, and, like, I mean, there was probably a more optimal word to put there. Like I said, this is nitpicking. 100,000% nitpicking, but it's still something worth mentioning. So instinctive guesswork, leading a surgery and saving a life, linking text terms, being encouraging, despite wavering fright. Despite's not as bad as I thought it was. When it's read at a more, like, measured pace, instinctive guesswork, leading a surgery and saving a life, linking text terms, being encouraging, despite wavering fright. I still don't love despite, but it works. What if mistakes as I slide the blade, distracted by conversation? I think some sort of punctuation here, like a comma or something, would have done well, because it reads better. It reads better with a slight pause, because what if mistakes as I slide the blade, distracted by conversation? It feels too much. But with the pause, what if mistakes as I slide the blade, distracted by conversation? Like, it puts that punch, that emphasis on it. So that would have been worth doing. But I feel like it's like I feel like most people that write topicals aren't that concerned about the punctuation, but it really does make a difference, because in the same way that we can choose words and we can choose, you know, literary devices and stuff to strengthen our verse, we can also use punctuation to create a very measured and very precise cadence and flow for a piece. So, like, for example, your second line, your first and your second line, you have those commas. So, instinctive guesswork, leading a surgery and saving a life, linking text terms, being encouraging despite wavering fright. You see how you define the flow for me. You say, start, stop, start, stop. I feel like that would have been a good place there, a comma there. What if mistakes as I slide the blade, distracted by conversation, a stroke in my mind as I slowly realize that this is not my patient. I like it. I really do like this verse. It's definitely enjoyable. I'm not sure that I had this foreshadowed, this slowly realizing that this is not my patient, but maybe that's good, you know, it's kind of a surprise in that. But why is it guesswork? Why are they text terms? You know, I understand that, you know, guesswork and text terms are pretty close rhymes, but, like, why? What's the real, like, motivation here? Unless it's, like, he's been learning from, like, med school documentation and books and stuff, and now he's linking it up in his mind and actualizing it in the form of a surgery, which I suppose is possible, but there's nothing in the verse that indicates that that's the case. It sounds like the text terms here are part of the conversation, because that's what's, you know, that's what's overall driving the verse. Okay, so now I'm going to read over JericKo's. So he says, Flight 19, 1945, I guess that's the title. The course was in transit, treacherous, North Atlantic. Why not Northern Atlantic? The course was in transit, treacherous, Northern Atlantic. Like, because course was in transit, Northern Atlantic. It would have made for a better multi. And like I said, no matter what I say, like, no, you guys have great verses. Like, it's you know, it's going to be nitpicking, but that's, you know, that's one thing. Like, why not Northern Atlantic? You could have adjusted accordingly and you know, changed a little bit elsewhere to balance for it, but I'd always rather try and keep the scheme as precise as possible, just because I'm a fucking nerd, and that's something I enjoy doing, I guess. So, I mean, reading this verse, like, that just screams to me. It's like, why not Northern Atlantic? Like, I don't know. The course was in transit, treacherous, North Atlantic, mysterious skies, beautiful nightmare, dark and volcanic. That's a cool image. I like how that you're, I like how you're sort of writing between the lines here, in that it's already implied that, based on, I mean, you gave away the fact that it's a flight, but based on the title, or without factoring in the title, there are only two things that could be doing. You could be traveling by boat in the treacherous Northern Atlantic, or you could be traveling by plane over the Northern Atlantic. Then you mentioned the skies and the dark and volcanic. So now, either you're sailing through a sky that's just filled with volcanic ash and all this shit, and it creates this really cool image, or you're flying a plane, which obviously we know which one it is, but just based on the verse, discounting the title, you already established that. You really pinpoint on what's going on. And I actually like this beautiful nightmare, because when I imagine what it would be like, for example, that boat example. If I were on a boat and I happen to be, you know, sailing past, you know, Mount Vesuvius when it fucking burst and killed, you know, the Pompeians, right? I would be in awe. Like, more than anything, I would be taken aback. I would be like, God, so many people are dying, but fuck, that's beautiful. Like, seeing the orange glints in the sky, that dark, heavy, blackish brown, you know, cloud of ash and dust and stuff just high in the sky, you know, like, it's crazy. Like, you know, especially, like, right when the cataclysm breaks and they fucking, you know, it bursts above. Like, that would be fucking beautiful. But at the same time, you're like, holy fuck, so many people are going to die. And I might die if I'm not careful, you know. Thankfully, in the water, you're a little bit safer. There are a lot of ways you could still die, but in the water, you got definitely a better chance. But yeah, the course was in transit. Treacherous, northern Atlantic. I kinda want to look up, how do I... No, I'll worry about it later. I kind of want to look up, like, volcanoes in the northern Atlantic so I get an idea of where this is, but I don't think it's of consequence to the piece. But that's where my mind goes. I'm like, could this really happen? Are there really, like, you know, that many volcanoes where, you know, you could be in the northern Atlantic and having these things? And I mean, obviously there are bound to be volcanoes up there. There are fucking volcanoes in Antarctica, so, you know. What are you gonna do? I think there are volcanoes in Antarctica. They're probably under ice, but I believe that they are. The course was in transit. Treacherous, northern Atlantic, mysterious skies, beautiful nightmare, dark and volcanic. So here you go off the rhyme scheme from north to dark, which in pronunciation you could say it, but it sounds like dork a little bit. So, like, the course was in transit. Treacherous, northern Atlantic, mysterious skies, beautiful nightmare, dark and volcanic. Like, you don't have to emphasize it as much. I just wanted to, you know, make it, you know, clear what I was talking about here, that it switches here a little bit. And I see the same thing happens with the psychosomatic, but I guess you were just going for the volcanic Atlantic as the main dents of your verse, and this was just an incidental, like, inner rhyme, I guess, between course, you know, all that. The course was in transit. Treacherous, northern Atlantic. I really want it to be northern, but I don't know. I keep reading it that way because that's how I want it to be. But the course was in transit. Treacherous, North Atlantic, mysterious skies, beautiful nightmare, dark and volcanic. Started to panic. See, there, dark and volcanic is clean with the started to panic. That's a good rhyme. And I guess, you know, that's your choice here. You are gonna have voters that are gonna look at that and they're gonna be like, potato doesn't rhyme with shoes, and it's like, it wasn't supposed to. There are two different schemes here. So I don't know, I just not to flail about and, you know, thrash here, but I bet that's gonna trigger somebody, because apparently it's hard to follow that rhyme schemes can change and don't necessarily have to land on the very end, and that you can have in jam rhymes and, like, all this stuff, and, like, I don't know, man. You can't change the voters. You can only change your verse. So I like it. The dark and volcanic started to panic. Heart beating faster now. It's kind of cool, these little inserts. But I don't know if I'm supposed to if I'm supposed to actually read that, if I'm supposed to be reading that, because, like, the course was in transit, treacherous, North Atlantic, mysterious skies, beautiful nightmare, dark and volcanic, started to panic, heart beating faster now. Is this psychosomatic? Mayday, mayday, static, I'm flying blind, where am I? Hopefully my dogs don't continue barking. They probably will. But yeah, I really enjoy these little things like the static and stuff like that. It's a really good way of using, like, an image or something like that and creating a feeling without using as many words as would be necessary to describe static. because having it with the little stars and stuff, it makes it clear that it's, you know, somebody on the radio using the static. Like, that's a creative thing. And that's what I love about you and Answer, especially, because, you know, when it comes to you guys, like, you guys are both primarily, like, battlers, right? Like, and in large part text battlers, although you both do audio, which is cool. And as a result, you bring, like, a different skill set and a different, like, state of mind to topicals. And it's honestly really cool, because ever since I saw your first topical in GSL however fucking long ago, I was convinced. I saw Answer's first topical, I was convinced. Like, you guys can fucking write. And I like that, you know, that little, you know, that difference in background results in, you know, little creative flourishes, like the static and heart beating faster now, all mashed up, so it's like, you know, it makes it kind of feel panicked and stuff, which is what you were going for with the panic. And the only thing that I would really mark is that this doesn't rhyme quite as well with the rest of the schemes, but in terms of content, it's more effective. So, like, I don't know. I don't know how you would resolve that, because, like, you've gotta end it on the rhyme, right? Like, it's pretty much like, and I like that you have, you know, all of these, like, you know, skies and fly and like little inner rhymes that I bet most people would miss. And then, yeah, obviously you get the free May Day. But, like, I don't know. It's I still, like, I look at this ending part, and it's just a little tiny bit underwhelming. Just because you had this really, course was in transit, North Atlantic, dork and volcanic, started to panic, psychosomatic, you know, you had this really, but then you go, where am I? Like, I guess it kind of works for the last couple syllables. You know, you could say matic, am I, but, like, it's really not that good. It's just, like, I don't know. It's good, but it's not as good as it could have been. Now, comparing your verses, I think line 2 was the weakest of the Ill One's verse. And I would say line 4 was the weakest of JericKo's verse. Both had little like, they both had little, like, things that could be improved, things that could be changed. But overall, both are very good verses. I like the twist here. I like the creative flourishes, and I sort of like the tongue-in-cheek nature of how this was written, this verse. It's really quite difficult to get anything. Now, why this? That's kind of cool. Like, it's not anything of consequence to the piece, but, like, you did a little bit of, like, interpretive art. Like, what are the two red lines, you know, at the bottom of the piece mean? Does that mean he went down? Is that, like, the yoke of the plane trying to pull up? Like, It's kind of cool. Even though it's like, it doesn't have any bearing on the actual piece. Maybe it does. I don't fucking know. I mean, I'm just, you know, I'm just some bozo, so who fucking knows, though. Okay, let's see. Instinctive guesswork. Instinctive guesswork, like, you don't think of a surgeon as being instinctive or making guesswork unless it's something that no one had ever prepared them for. Like, for example, operating on some alien fucking life form that comes here and has completely different organs and stuff, and now he's supposed to save the life of this thing. That would be a situation where you would use instinctive guesswork. You know, you just try and figure it out as you go along, try and reference things to what you know, but in all, it doesn't feel like it would be instinctual or based on guesswork. Maybe instinctive I could see because you've trained so much as a doctor, but you wouldn't really be guessing. You would be, like, you would know the shit. I assume you would know the shit. Like, you would know anatomy and stuff. Leading a surgery and saving a life. Like here, it sounds like a very confident and capable doctor. Linking text terms. I still don't like text terms. I think that is the weakest part of the verse. If I am to be honest, this linking text terms, even though it rhymes with distinctive guesswork, linking text terms. Obviously, it works, but I think in terms of like content, it just feels weaker than the rest of the verse, because the rest of the verse is really solid. Being encouraging despite wavering fright. What if mistakes as I slide the blade, distracted by conversation? A stroke in my mind as I slowly realize that this is not my patient. I still don't like slowly. I feel like I feel like there could have been a better word, but I don't know. I mean, it works. The course was in transit. Treacherous. North Atlantic. I wish this were northern, but I've said that 6 times now. Mysterious skies. Beautiful nightmare. Dark and volcanic. Started to panic. Heart beating faster now. Is this psychosomatic? Mayday. Mayday. Static. I'm flying blind. Where am I? The where am I and, I don't know. The where am I, like, it's a cool way of ending it. Like, it works. But, it just doesn't rhyme as well with the psychosomatic, dark and volcanic, northern Atlantic, started to panic, that whole thing. Course was in transit. Like, it doesn't fit with that scheme as well. The static definitely does, because static, somatic, you know, that's that whole thing. This is a really tough fucking verse to vote. Like, you both have such great elements in your verse. Like, I just don't even know. Like, this is so just like, God, this is torture. This is actually torture to have to vote one way or the other. Instinctive guesswork. Leading a surgery and saving a life. Linking text terms. Being encouraging despite wavering fright. Who are you being encouraging to? I guess the person who you're having conversation with. Hopefully not your patient shit. Because that would be, you know, that would be pretty bad if they're awake and, you know, complacent with the razors in their face and skin. I don't know. I'm just having fun rhyming. I'm a troll. Okay, instinctive guesswork. Leading a surgery and saving a life. This part, like, leading a surgery and saving a life. Nothing you can say about that, just works. Instinctive guesswork. Instinctive, sure. Guesswork, no. Linking text terms, no. Being encouraging despite, I don't like despite. Wavering fright, sure. I guess they can be scared. But this part sounds like leading. You're not really scared when you lead a surgery. You know, it's like, unless you're forced to. And I guess we have no background to say why this is instinctive guesswork. Like, is it their first time ever doing it and they have no training and, like, they're being forced? Because then, you know, that would have been kind of cool. Being encouraging despite wavering fright. What if mistakes as I slide the blade, distracted by conversation? A stroke in my mind as I slowly realize that this is not my patient. Okay. The course was in transit. Treacherous. North Atlantic. Mysterious skies. Beautiful nightmare. Dark and volcanic. Started to panic. Heart beating faster now. Is this psychosomatic? Mayday. Mayday. Static. I'm flying blind. Where am I? And what was the original? Flying blind. I guess, okay, here's an attempt to try and interpret this in a way where, because, like, yeah, I guess he's supposed to be unskilled and somehow not cut out to this. Maybe it's instinctive guesswork because this doctor is actually blind. And he's just kind of taking guesses at what he's cutting, and that's fucking terrible. Why does he expect to save a life like that? Like, don't even try. Fuck, man. Linking text terms. And maybe his hands are in the body, and he's interpreting the grooves of their skin as braille, so that's why it's text terms? Being encouraging. Why would he be encouraging? I would be fucking terrified. Despite wavering fright. Yeah, I would just not want to do that. What if mistakes, what are mistakes? Everything's a mistake when you're fucking doing blind surgery. As I slide the blade, distracted by conversation. I think there's a lot more going wrong if you're blind and doing surgery. A stroke in my mind as I slowly realize that this is not my patient. How would you know if you were blind? So, like, I don't know. That was just a fun attempt at interpreting it like that. But I think overall, it's a great verse. Really solid. The course was in transit. Treacherous. North Atlantic. Mysterious skies. Beautiful nightmare. Dark and volcanic. Like, I love this beautiful nightmare. Even though it kind of stands out because it's not really ingrained in the rhyme scheme. Like, I love that. The beautiful nightmare. That's exactly how I would think about, like, having to fly through or, like, ride past or just anything to do with seeing a currently erupting volcano, like, violently erupting and just fucking wrecking everything in its sight. I would think it's terrible, but it's beautiful. Like, so I love this. I love the beautiful nightmare. Like, that's two words that like dig right to the fucking heart of how I would actually see this situation. Dark and volcanic. Started to panic. Heart beating faster now. Is this psychosomatic? Mayday, mayday. Static. I'm flying blind. Where am I? What would be psychosomatic? The dark and volcanic skies, or your heart beating faster? I mean, things being psychosomatic, like, they wouldn't generally be. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm flying blind. Where am I? So, JericKo went with the much more literal interpretation of flying blind. The ill one, seems like he wrote about a doctor or a surgeon that didn't really know what the fuck they were doing. But it didn't feel like it like invested heavily enough in that. Because leading a surgery and saving a life, you make me think it's like a real capable doctor. But it's not. Like, if they're flying blind. So I think in that respect, JericKo's much closer to the, like, because, I mean, literally, he's flying blind. You know, without any, any instruments, presumably because of the static and, you know, the Mayday, since he's, you know, since he's lost in this volcanic ash cloud. I mean, that's pretty clear. Like, he's flying blind, you know, everything's fucking shitty. Not so much fun there. I think you both did a good job with the rhyme schemes. Like, obviously, the ill one had an attempt at a full line rhyme here, but the second little couplet doesn't quite stand up to that. Because, like, let's read it backwards. So, conversation, not my patient. Distracted by. That this is. You see, like, we're already off the beat. Slide the blades. Slowly realize. As I matches up. So, stroke in my mind. What if mistakes? You see how, like, here, it pretty much is just, distracted by conversation. Well, actually, no, just conversation, not my patient. Whereas here, it's instinctive guesswork, leading a surgery and saving a life. So, wavering fright, saving a life, being encouraging, leading a surgery, instinctive guesswork, linking text terms, but there isn't any of that in the third and fourth line with respect to one another. Whereas JericKo just stays consistent, doesn't really go for anything too crazy, just goes for what seems like it should be a 5-syllable rhyme scheme, but here it's only 4 because you didn't go Northern Atlantic. I wish you had. But yeah, it's I'll call it a 5 because you can just I don't know, man. But despite the fact that the ill one went for more, the third and fourth lines didn't. And I won't be fooled by the quality of the first and second lines into thinking that it did, because it didn't. It's kind of a battle of, like, half of the verse being very impressive in terms of rhyme scheme, and the whole verse just being consistent, with the exception of Where Am I? But it's still at least an attempt. Matic is closer to Am I? I don't know, like, it's closer to it, so, like, it sort of can work, but I'm not in love with it. And then you have the little, like, in jam rhyme of the static, you know, and you do try. I like the twist here. I like the imagery. I really like Beautiful Nightmare. I feel like Mysterious Skies, like, there could have been a stronger thing there, but the skies was necessary. Beautiful Nightmare, that's great. Dark and Volcanic, sure. Course was in transit. You're painting a picture, giving us, like, the feel and the why and the how. Started to panic, heart beating faster now. Is this psychosomatic? This is just purely, you know, them stressing out because shit's going wrong. Mayday, mayday, static. I'm flying blind. Where am I? Very good. Nothing to be said against either your verses. You guys both fucking killed it. But I think at this point, I'm ready to throw my 2 cents into the ring and place a vote. And I'm going to be voting in JericKo's favor because I felt his consistency was better throughout. There was nothing that really felt cheap. Linking text terms felt like you were rhyming it just to have instinctive guesswork linking text terms. Like, I get why you did it and what you were trying for, but it doesn't fully work for what you were trying for. And, like, I mean, hate on that opinion if you will, but it's just like, we don't speak in text terms. I'm vocalizing. You know, we talk and we type in text terms on, like, a forum, but what would a doctor be doing? Are you telling me the doctor's fucking texting or some shit? Because, I mean, then, okay, linking text terms. But then they wouldn't really be terms either. So it's like, you know, it's just... when I look at that line, I don't see the full value that could have been had in it. It's still very good, but at least for me, it feels cheaper than the rest of the verse. And the third and fourth lines, while they are good, and there are internals, you know, within it, you know, slide, lies, you know, that whole thing, you know, and mind, realize, but it definitely doesn't live up to the first two lines in terms of the rhyme scheme. The second line, the linking text terms, feels cheaper. It had one too many holes, I guess, is my my point here. Because, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to call this battle and just say, like, yeah, you guys both did a great job, you both win, can't do that. I have to vote. And for me, JericKo's verse was just slightly more consistent. I wish this ending had been stronger, but it works well enough. It gets the job done. Which sometimes that's all you need. And here it worked well enough for me to feel the verse. So yeah, that's all. Hope you guys enjoyed the vote. Keep the fire alive inside you, and peace.